Hey there to our 164 subscribers, our future subscribers, and all the people that secretly watch us without subscribing. I'm hoping I can get this video done before the refrigerator starts buzzing again. I wanted to do a story time, which is actually 3 story times in one. It's my birth stories for my kids. They are now 33, 31, and 23. So of course the details are not fresh in my mind. But I will tell you the important details that I remember. And if you have questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Jocelyn is my oldest. At the time I had her, I was 16 years old and a college dropout. Basically, the morning sickness was making me sick and I quit. So anyway, when I had her, I had gone in for a checkup. Didn't know I was in labor until I was in there. And I don't know if I was really in labor until after I was in there. They did an ultrasound and they said that the amniotic fluid was very minimal, and so they didn't want me to go home. And so they decided to keep me. And and that's kind of when I went into labor, I guess, kind of, sort of. And so I was in there, and after about 24 hours, I started panicking because I was supposed to be at my cousin's wedding, and I was exhausted, and I begged the doctor to do a C-section. And because I was so young, it was because I was so young and it wasn't really an emergency, so the doctor refused, and I'm so thankful that the doctor was more rational than I was. And so it ended up a total of 36 hours of hard labor. And of course my water didn't break because there wasn't really that much. It didn't break. They didn't break it. I don't know. But my cervix wouldn't dilate, which is part of the reason that it took so long. I had a midwife that tried to force me to dilate. And she helped a little bit, but it still didn't work. And amazingly, I managed to have her without any technical complications, really. I did tear like 3 inches, which is quite a bit. I had to have some major stitches. But she was 9 pounds 1 ounce, and I was kind of small at the time, and so it was a bit much. They did do an epidural, and which I agreed to towards the end, but really the epidural didn't do anything. Like, it didn't have any effect at all. And I'm not exactly sure why. I had one nurse tell me it was because of the position of her head or something. I don't even know. But who knows what's right and what's wrong, because, things change over the years and people learn different things. But anyway, I ended up, I can't remember how long I ended up pushing. I'd say I think it was about an hour that I was actually pushing. And they had this mirror above me, and they're like, "Oh, tell me, you can look in the mirror and watch if you want to." And I was like, "No, I don't want to." I was kind of, in panic mode at the time, and they actually had this class that came in, medical class, to observe, which was really awkward. Like, 16-year-old having a baby and this big group of people come in to watch. It was a little strange. My grandma showed up, and my grandma, her and I hadn't really gotten along that well before that point, but yet at the time she came in, she told me she was proud of me and walked out, and I was a little confused. But it was her first great grandbaby, and so anyway, she was 9 pounds 1 ounce. And as soon as I pushed her out, then all the medication from the epidural hit me at once. And I was just kind of laying there, thought I was watching TV as people were talking to me. I just thought all the people around me were a TV. And that was a little crazy. Had to have major stitches, and yeah, that's how that one went. And then Kendra, my second one, I was 18 when I had her, and I was in labor with her for quite a while before I ever went to the hospital. I had this theory, if I went to the hospital, it'd slow the labor down, because I just insisted that was why I was in such long labor with Jocelyn. So I kind of hid it from people. My husband was out at the arcade with his friends and didn't have a clue. His mom was there and she didn't have any idea, because I was kind of hiding from her. He came home and we went outside for a little bit. I don't even remember why we went outside. We went outside though, and I was holding my oldest daughter, Jocelyn. She was almost 2 at the time. And every time I had a contraction, I'd just like take her and set her on the car, wait for the contraction to stop, and then I'd pick her back up. And he kept looking at me kind of funny. And then we went in the house and I sat down for a little while, and then when I had a contraction, he realized what was going on, and he insisted we went to the hospital. And I argued because I didn't want to go. I thought that if I went to the hospital, the labor would take longer. And so I was like refusing to go, and he kind of nagged at me until I agreed. And I made 1,000,001 excuses on the way there. I had to stop and get a newspaper, and I don't remember what all. But I made a lot of excuses why we had to do other things first, despite the fact it was the middle of the night. With her, I was in hard labor for probably about, I think, 12 hours. And they had to break my water with her because it did not want to break on its own. She was actually 8 pounds, 10 ounces, and but she was super tiny, because with her, she was just solid muscle, pretty much. And so despite the fact that she was 8 pounds, 10 ounces, she was like, they put her in preemie diapers because her waist was so tiny. And so yeah, and with her, they cut me. I think it was like an inch or so they cut me, because they just assumed I was going to tear, and they were trying to prevent the tearing. I think they've learned since then that tearing's better than cutting, because the tears heal better. I could be wrong, but I think that's what they've determined since I've had my kids. But anyway, I pushed with her, I'd say about half an hour. When they broke my water, my husband wasn't there. They called him, and he got there just in time. And my nose keeps itching. I don't know why, but sometimes when I record these videos, it makes my nose itch. The talking, it makes vibration. I don't even know. But anyway, I'm probably forgetting something that I wanted to say. I don't remember. But anyway, so then my son, 8 years later, I was married again, and his dad told me he couldn't have kids, and so surprise. He was wrong. So my son, I was having contractions with him for 8 weeks or something. They said it was Braxton Hicks, but it was like 8 weeks, all day long, every day. I was exhausted. Then the day that I really went into labor, I was trying to force myself to go into labor. It was hot. And it was June, and I decided to mow an acre of lawn with a push mower. And by push mower, I mean hand powered, no electricity, no gas, just push. And when you push it, the wheels spin the blade. And it was going okay. I just took breaks. Every time I got too hot, I'd go in the house, take a break. And then at one point, I was pushing it, and one of the wheels hit a hole, and it come back and slammed into my stomach, and I was in a lot of pain. So that was that. I had to quit. I kind of hung out at home. I was determined I wasn't going to the hospital again. I lived about 13 miles from town. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it was something like that, 13 or 17 or something. And my husband came out to the house, and he decided he didn't know I was in labor. He decided to take a nap. And at one point, he said I was making too much noise and keeping him awake, and asked me to be quiet. And I kind of snapped at him. And then he realized I was in labor and demanded I go to the hospital and wanted to take me. And I told him I wasn't getting in his truck because I didn't like his truck, and I was going to drive myself. And I just told him to keep his distance so that if I hit the brakes, he didn't hit me. And I drove down this long country road until I got to the highway and pulled out on the highway. And luckily there wasn't any traffic, because as soon as I pulled out on the highway, I had a contraction and had to stop the car. I made it to the hospital, and when I got out of the car, as soon as I had a contraction, I lost the feeling in my legs and had to grab the car. Got inside, and I was talking to the nurses inside and told them I was in labor, and they're like, "Oh, what's your pain level?" And I don't even remember. I think I said like a 6 or something. And they're like, "Well, if it's a 6, you're not in labor." And I said, "I've had 2 kids. I know what labor is." And they tried arguing with me, and then a contraction hit, and I had to grab the counter so I didn't fall, because I lost the feeling in my legs again. And so they decided to put me in the emergency part of the hospital, not in the labor part, just in the emergency room. But it was like a room that they used for delivering babies. And so I was in there for a while. I don't even remember how long now, but they sent my husband home because he was threatening the nurses. I was in pain. He didn't like seeing me in pain, so he started threatening the nurses, and they told him they were going to call the cops if he didn't leave. And they'd call him when I was ready to deliver. And they were actually still arguing with me, telling me I wasn't in labor. I don't know, maybe 6 hours had gone by. I think it was a total of 6 hours of hard labor, but so it was probably about 5 hours had gone by, and they were arguing with me. And they were getting ready to discharge me. My doctor was not working that night, and so a different doctor came in, was going to discharge me. And right when he said he was going to discharge me, my water broke. And so the hospital contacted my parents. My parents went and contacted my husband because he didn't have a phone, but they lived nearby. And from my understanding, my husband had, not the husband I had at the time, he pulled into the parking lot of the hospital, from my understanding, hit one of the signs, ripped it out of the ground, concrete and all, and came inside the hospital, threw himself on the floor crying. I don't even remember what all the drama was that I heard about, but my mom claims that he threw himself across the top of me when he got in the room, but I don't remember that. It could have happened, who knows? Because you don't always remember everything when you're in labor. And so, let's see, with him, I think it was only 2 pushes, maybe 3. I think it was 2. I think I only had pushed twice, because the doctor came in. My doctor showed up when my water broke, and he asked me if I was ready to push. I was like, no, I don't think so. And then as soon as he started walking out, I was like, nope, changed my mind, I'm ready. And he came back in, and 1 push, and my son's head was out, and they told me not to push because the cord was around his neck. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't stop. And a 2nd push, and he was out. And you might think, oh, maybe he was small. No, he was 8 pounds, 10.5 ounces. and he was in between the kids and girls, between the girls in size, not just in weight. And I don't know how I pushed him out so fast, but literally 2 pushes, he was out. I think it was maybe because the 8 weeks of contractions, my body was just ready to let him go. And he was blue when he came out, but he got his color back pretty fast. And what else? Oh, with him, I tore 3 centimeters, I think, something like that. I don't know. The numbers just kind of blur together. But anyway, I had a weird doctor though. He went to stitch up the 3 little centimeters, and he stitched me most of the way closed, which made it very difficult for cleaning. And you don't stay. People have this theory. They think that however much that you get sewn up, that's how the size you end up, and that's not true. It just, you heal and you into the same shape you were in to begin with. Pretty sure you're the same size you were before you had the baby, and as far as down there. And the doctor just did this thing, I don't know, he had this thing where he sewed you closed to keep you from getting pregnant again too soon. And so yeah, that was annoying, only because it made it difficult to clean. And so anyway, yeah, and so those are my 3 kids. Did I say all their names? The first one's Jocelyn, the second one was Kendra, the third one's Skylar. And yeah, they're all grown up and moved out. And I just wanted to share my stories with you guys. So anyway, yeah, that's it. And I'm going to let you go before the refrigerator starts buzzing. And please like, subscribe, comment, and share. And get your friends to do the same thing. Bye.